Thank you so much for being here in my home. I love having people here, despite of having a conversation, having a coffee, breakfast, or some cookies. I got so inspired when we talked first about your background, about the journey and the path you chose, and your dedication to help others to get into, elevate their life, rediscover themselves, which also has a lot to do with Nikki Owl and your journey in Vancouver.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. Your home is beautiful, and the coffee's great too.
Coffee's great.
How did I get to where I am? It was listening to the call to adventure, which if you've heard of the hero's journey, we all follow it without realizing it, what we're doing. That what we're doing is following this hero's journey. Most of the time we start a life, we build a life, and we're just kind of doing it as society asks us to do. And then something happens that makes us pivot. For me, the pivot point was discovering this place called Vancouver.
Yes.
Falling in love with it. I'm from Marbella originally. When I decided to move to Vancouver, that was taking a leap of faith on myself, because I was going somewhere where I didn't really know anyone. I did have a best friend who had introduced me to the city, and so I knew that eventually he would be there.
Yes.
And that gave me a bit of a trampoline to move with some confidence. But of course, you step into the unknown. You don't really know how it's going to work out. For a while, I maintained the marketing business that I was operating with, even though my dream as a child, as little Karin, was to write books and develop my cartoon character, which is Nikki Owl. After being in Canada, I wasn't able to stay there as I wanted to. I ended up in the US for a bit. And that's where I met my first coach. And through the work that I did with this coach, I rescued my own dreams and I started to reinvent myself. I liked the coaching aspect. I liked what I was learning from myself to develop myself further. And then I wanted to help people with that.
This platform is mainly dedicated for single parenthood, is dedicated for co-parenting and how to create a better, safe environment for our children, or maybe some advice that we can give out there. When it comes to parents, how can I put that positive attitude towards my children? No matter what, those kids will get affected with the separation or with the divorce.
Of course.
So the reason I'm jumping into that, not only because of the platform, but I know you also dedicated your profession and you do workshops and you do practices and you visit schools for children that may be coming from two different families, a split family, let's call it, and how we can help those kids to evolve in such environment. It's not easy. It's not easy from experience as well. My two kids, me and my ex-husband decided to separate 3 years ago. And that journey for them, being young kids, it was not easy. So the best we could do, I think, it's eventually change attitude.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's one part of it.
Yes.
And also the behaviors. How are you both presenting yourselves as parents to your kids under the umbrella of separation? Obviously, there are reasons for the separation. Sometimes it's an easier separation, sometimes it's not. There are bad separations. Ideally, if you can get to a point of being as graceful as possible through the separation process, that is already showing your kids how to be graceful in their own lives.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
That affects the attitude as well.
Yeah.
And obviously it depends on the age of the children. If they're very young children, they don't understand everything that's going on, but they do absorb it energetically and emotionally. But they don't necessarily have the vocabulary to express themselves and say, well, this hurts, or I don't understand this, please explain it to me. It's not always easy at that level, at the younger, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids.
Those young kids, how do they express themselves? Because again, they don't have the vocabulary, as you say. They don't have the words or the voice to just say it. Is there somehow that they express themselves so
Typically,
that I can pay attention at least to that kid?
Right. Well, that's a key word, paying attention. A lot of parents don't pay attention. They just skim over because they're so busy in their own minds with all the stuff of the separation.
I don't blame them too. It's not. They're going through a very tough journey.
Everyone's pushing along in their own ways.
Yeah.
But with the kids, there are usually two different ways if they're more artistic or sporty. So from the artistic side, you will notice, a lot of therapists will also see this in their practice, kids will draw. And so they will draw maybe in the beginning when the family was perfect, they'll typically draw the house with the family, the parents, the dog, the cat, whatever. And everyone's maybe together in that house. When there's a separation, you might notice that suddenly they draw the dad over here and the mother over there, and they position themselves with one or the other, or maybe even in the center. And so that is a psychological process they're expressing through the artwork of this unit that I had is now separate. And so that's them showing you that, one, they're recognizing that it's happening, but also you can pay attention to the colors that they're using. If there's a lot of dark colors and circling and black, usually there's a storm. They're representing the storm, whether it's their emotional storm or the storm of the separation. So those are cues that you can see at that artistic level that kids will typically represent. And then on sports, well, are they suddenly more into, not violent sports, but are they expressing themselves a bit more violently or with frustration rather in sports? Those are a few things that you will notice.
Yes, we've actually talked about it. Perhaps maybe a lot of those kids can go through being bullied or become bullying, and that's only not because they're bad or anything. No kids is bad. So, but it's just another way of expressing themselves.
There are no bad people, only ineffective communicators.
Okay.
And if someone is throwing a tantrum, that's just bad communication. They don't know any other way. If they're screaming, if they're kicking things, if they're throwing things, that's communication. So nonverbal communication.
Exactly. Those are the signs that these kids are showing their frustration and their unhappiness of maybe this split. How is that both parents can learn to communicate? What would you tell them how to communicate, or how to start learning to accept maybe this situation where eventually it doesn't affect these children?
Obviously, a lot of parents get into parenting without really knowing what they're getting into. It's like, okay, let's have a family, let's have the baby, but what do we do with that afterwards? How do we educate that child? Especially if you have different backgrounds, different cultures, and you're trying to build a unit together. Both parents have to have a level of consciousness and self-awareness of what they're bringing to the table, because they're two people and their relationship is another entity. And then within that entity, they develop the family. And then, of course, you've got children. So whatever you two are putting in as parents, you've got to find some harmony and cohesion, even if you do things very differently, so that at least the children can learn that it's okay if one does one thing one way, the other does it another way. But then eventually, if you get to that split, not to make one right or wrong, because that does impact the children. It makes them question their reality. And of course, there's always going to be a bit more loyalty towards one parent or the other.
Right.
And in the separation process, you also want to respect that they need to feel safe, even though they're no longer under the umbrella of two parents together.
Yes.
So the parents have to feel safe or create their own sense of safety and renew it under that single parent umbrella, and then find a way to bring it to their children. So that the children understand that, okay, the family unit as they knew it is not quite the same, but it doesn't have to be completely eradicated, and you're all working through it together. So again, it will come down to what age the kids are, how much you talk to them, and how you talk to them about the other parent.
That's key. That's also very important. Yes. How can I, as a single mom, or in a sense, my ex-husband as a single dad, create that safety for our children, not living under the same roof, as you said? Doesn't that come first, feeling safe with myself, so I can project that to my young ones?
Of course.
Yeah. How can I start create that for myself first?
It's you looking within at yourself, at your own life, and what you're doing with your life, that you can start to build that sense of safety, whether it's the financial independence or whatever financial arrangement you have with the next partner, your own health, like physical well-being as well. What are you doing, or what can you start to do to be whole within yourself, so that you can at least transmit that energetically and emotionally to your kids, so that they don't feel that, okay, the unit as we knew it to be, the block, is disintegrating, but it doesn't have to disintegrate to such a degree that there's nothing for them to stand on and feel safe with. So that's where you can start to present them with the sense of safety, and they can build it up within themselves.
Yes. So we go back to our conversation. That starts with me. Starts with me as a woman, as a man, as a single parent, and me understanding that, hey, this is actually a chance for me to start like a rebirth.
It is.
A chance for me to evolve and start again, which then I'm going to take it to your book, Nikki Owl. So how is Nikki Owl helping me? Which I love it because everything is from Vancouver. So that's great. You know, like the sketches, your sketches that inspired you. Lonsdale Key, for example, I saw.
Gastown.
The Gastown is this Nikki Owl. He's been pretty well everywhere in Vancouver.
Yeah, so that book is based on my first book, which was actually a novel. And it was part metaphorical, metaphysical, light spiritual stories about an owl in a forest with his friends talking about life. And then after my experience in Vancouver, I decided to take Nikki Owl as a main character, put in some of my life stories into that first book. And it's a novel, it's an illustrated novel. And so that was the first book that I published. After that is when I started to develop the coaching aspect of my business. And so I thought, what if I take Nikki Owl as the cartoon character and give him a new purpose as a helper for other people? And that's where this book came out. So I took the same illustrations and I put them in a creativity book where adults could color, because coloring is a very relaxing, therapeutic, non-purpose driven, like that you don't have to produce. It's just having fun, basically. And that's a way to help adults get back into a little play space in their own minds. And when we're in that play space is when we can really relax into ourselves and remember who we are, the things that truly bring us joy, and we can start building from there. So the other parts of the book are creative prompts, writing prompts, self-reflection for people to rediscover that part of themselves that maybe they had boxed away. Pull up old dreams that are there forgotten, and maybe they want to recover them and try something new again. And so that was the purpose of this book. And I also started working in schools with kids and simplifying some of that content.
So basically you're helping these children to rediscover at that young age.
The purpose of the book for kids is for them not to lose track of who they are. Most kids already know what they want, but life, parents, situations can push them out.
Of course.
And then they become the adults who hit a crossroads in their life at 30 or 40 years old, and they have to reinvent themselves. So basically the book is geared for the kids to develop what they already feel drawn to developing in their lives, and hopefully it works out without too much interference, and then for the adults to rescue themselves.
Interesting.
It's always going to be stuff that we need to go through to learn.
Of course.
But if we can limit that in the positive sense, then we have a better chance of living a more fulfilled life.
And when it comes to separation, in your experience, what you've seen in that toxic relationship, again, it's their fault, but it's not their fault. It's no one's fault in this case. It's not easy. But when it comes to that relationship between parents, that toxicity, how does it affect the children?
So it depends on, obviously, the reasons why they've decided to separate. A lot of parents, they might not even have the emotional maturity really to be dealing with either a relationship or kids at that time. And so without realizing it, they might project onto their own kids their anger or frustration or disappointment with their partner for the breakup or for whatever wasn't working in the relationship.
Without realizing it, or some they do realize? Some
realize, others, I'd like to say most of them don't. It's so subconscious.
I admit it. It has happened to me that, yes, I did badmouth, let's say in this case, their father, you know, in a sense where I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm upset, it's frustration. But then I realized that that's not right. I'm affecting my children and projecting their father into my children. And it's not fair to them, actually.
No, because that's your issues with him.
Exactly.
And they shouldn't necessarily affect your children. But most parents, they're caught up in the pain. And I'm not justifying anything, but I'm just explaining that in those moments of pain, you don't always think or don't stop to think, oh, I shouldn't be saying these things in front of my kids. Because you're then undermining the other parent. And that can distort their sense of the other parent, which they may love for their own reasons.
Claro, of course.
And so you don't want to impact that negatively. The ideal is to, going back to the word grace, is to find grace in the separation, no matter how painful it may be, no matter how unfair it might feel for either party, but keep that separate from the kids and find ways to still speak well of the parent because they are the other parent.
Yeah.
Even if you've come out of a toxic situation, which again, there are levels of toxicity and people who really do bad stuff on purpose, but the kids don't need to know all the stuff that you're feeling about the other parent.
Yes.
That's what therapists are for, other professionals, good friends, to vent to and keep that separate. Keep those conversations as separate as possible from the kids.
Yeah.
So that when you're talking to your kids, you can speak at a more down-to-earth level and say, things didn't work out between us, but he still loves you, I still love you, and we're going to find out how we can still manage this family together even though we're not living together anymore.
Exactly. And that's the graceful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's which is the ideal goal in that separation.
And acting like that in such a graceful way. I'm actually teaching my kids in the future to be graceful with their own partners, maybe in their own future, with different relationship, whether it's work relationship, professional relationship, or family or partner, anything. The other day, my ex-husband actually shared a poem with me. I don't know if you know about James McCraw. And he did mention that in his poem, he says, everything is temporary, nothing is permanent. So then let's live it gracefully. Let's live in terms of the relationship. Let's leave this earth gracefully. And that was so graceful to hear, you know, and actually it gives us a sense of, yeah, I want to be that. I want to present grace, you know, and do things with kindness, do things with in a professional way, and as much as I can with harmony. And you're right, even though we're not together, still this is a family.
Yes, and all of these actions and behaviors are teaching your kids how to be as adults.
Yeah.
So how you break up teaches them how they break up. How you live the relationship teaches them how to live the relationship. Because kids learn more by seeing what we do than by us telling them. And so if the behavior is, let's say, negative, unfortunately, they'll learn some of those patterns. And apply them later because that's what they were taught.
Yeah.
Just like we were taught patterns by our own parents or families. And then we figure out later on, that didn't really work out for me. I need to change that.
We don't want to get to that point for them, though.
Preferably not.
Preferably not. Exactly. Yeah. It's unfortunate how some parents, and again, maybe comes from a sense of pain and anger or their experience, they manipulate their children in that situation. And they're not aware of how much maybe suffering they're causing to that kid. Now, it can be a 6-year-old or it can be a 16-year-old, a teenager. And I don't know, that's really not fair to them.
That's when a lot of people are running on guilt.
Okay.
And whether they feel guilty for leaving or being left or whatever, they project that guilt onto their kids. And you will find that in a lot of the less healthy separations where one parent is trying to guilt their kids into spending more time with them instead of the other parent, which actually comes back to the attitude we were talking about earlier.
That's right.
What kind of attitude are you presenting as an ex-partner to your kids because you're still their parent?
Attitude. That attitude is everything. And towards the relationship, but towards life too. And in downtime is just actually the work that you've done. That's when it tests you to put on work. Right? Like
we can work on ourselves in isolation, but the real test is when we meet the next person, or we're dealing with an ex, or we're dealing with kids who've gone through that. That's where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
Like all the theory, now you have to put it into practice. And it's not always fun. It can be messy for a while until you shift the behaviors. You're out of the old pattern, you're into a new behavior that is healthier and cleaner.
Yes.
So we try not to be too messy. That's all I can say.
We try. What are some of practices that as a parent I can put on my kid? So if he or she going through some tough time, especially at the beginning of this separation, how can I make this journey as smooth as possible for my kids?
One is working out those emotions yourself.
Yes.
And also inviting them into that safe space that you can create with them. Give them the reassurance that even though things are going to be changing and you don't have all the answers yet because you don't, that creates a space for new safety to arise from.
Right.
Because again, everyone's pieces are moving around the table and you don't exactly know where everything's going to land yet. But if you can speak with a positive reassurance and say, well, we're still in this together, and we're going to work it out together.
Yeah.
And I want you to come to me and share whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. I may not always have the answers for you because I'm still figuring out some of my own, but at least we know that we can count on each other while we're working through this process together.
I love that. Yeah, we're in this together.
Exactly.
And it actually gives them a sense of belonging too. You know,
That too.
Like I'm part of this. Yes, mom, I'll be, or yes, dad, I'll be by your side, and we go together. At the beginning of my separation, I was very hurt. I was very angry and a lot of pain. I was here on the couch, and my eldest son, Yanis, he sees me. I'm very upset, and he says, "Mom, this is the new normal for us now. You have to get used to it." You know, an 11-year-old kid, 11 at that point when he was, telling me that this is the new normal for us, that it was such an awakening point for me.
And that is a great reminder that so many parents are stuck in this mindset of, I'm the parent, I teach you the child.
Oh, yeah.
The kid is there to teach us as well.
100%.
How many people are paying attention to that? Because a lot of kids are very bright in that space now, in the, especially now with schools being more involved in emotional development and everything, they're picking up on a lot more than we give them credit for. And so that is a great evolved response for a child to say, we're in this together.
Yes.
And this is the new normal, and this is change, but we're together in this. That speaks volumes for him, and obviously what you have contributed in the relationship with him.
Yes.
Obviously your ex as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And that shows someone who is already more conscious.
Yes.
Who is more able to handle different situations and is okay with that.
For sure. It's more than okay. Me and their father decided that we're going to talk to them. Like, yes, they're children, but like adults. We're going to tell them the truth. We're going to tell them what's happening. And we're going to be honest. This is just honesty. And talk to them as much as it's painful. They might see us, you know, in a deep pain and in a grieving moment. But it's not fair to them to go through that stage because they're children, but I don't want to hide them from reality. Create that bubble for them. I know I'm protecting them. I want to protect them, but they have to know the truth. They have to know what's happening and what stage we are in life.
And that is protection, because that's helping them develop their mechanisms to safeguard, protect, adapt. And you're not coddling them.
Yes.
Most old school protection is, I'm going to create the bubble, nothing's happening here, everything's perfect, and then the bubble bursts, and nobody knows how to handle that bubble bursting. Then what have you taught your kids? You're completely exposed.
Yeah.
And then you get scared. And then things go crazy.
Yeah. No, it's not fair. It's not fair to them, and not knowing what's happening.
Yeah. There are different ways to present it, also based on what age they're at.
Yes.
Super simplified, not giving too much details, whatever. And then later on, they can find out more of the details of what was going on.
It's important to talk to them and not ignore, no matter how in a deep, dark hole I might be, because it's not easy and it's so stressful or whatever I'm going through. But bring myself out, be aware, and try to communicate and mention it to the kids.
You want to involve them. Because
evolve evolve them?
Well, you involve and evolve at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
But if you're involving them, then that's also teaching them not to exclude other people, especially if they have kids later on, if they happen to also go through a separation with their partner. You're showing them that they matter.
100%.
And the worst thing that kids can feel is to feel that they're not being included in important decisions. Like, obviously, when they're a baby, you're not going to tell the baby, hey, by the way, we're doing this. But when they're older and they have a certain grasp of reality, you can tell them, we've tried the best we could, but this isn't working out, so we're going to have to make some big changes. And it's going to affect all of us, but we're going to do the best we can with what we know.
Nice.
And as we're always evolving and growing, we'll figure out new information later on, and we'll tell you, we'll include you in that. Because that educates them in these kinds of conscious conversations. And not to fear the tough conversations, which is usually what makes a lot of things go wrong.
Karin, can you tell me a little bit of your workshops? Can you give us maybe some examples or?
So some of my favorite workshops that I like to do are communication skills based and learning styles. So we all have different ways of learning information, whether it's visual, kinesthetic, which is feeling, auditory, or thinking. And we perceive the world through our brain, through these different layers. We use them all, but sometimes one more than the other. And that's also how we learn and how we then communicate to the people in our lives. And a lot of it comes down to the words that we use. And sometimes we think we're explaining something to somebody as clearly and concisely as possible for them to understand, but they actually don't get it because we're technically still speaking a different language just by the simple words that we use. If we're, let's say I'm very auditory, sound-based, and maybe you're very visual-based.
Yeah.
The words and the way that you will learn are by looking at something and by hearing the words that have to do with seeing. Can you see how that behavior of yours has been affecting such and such a person? Can you imagine what it feels like for me when I'm going through this? If I don't know how your brain operates at that level, I can be speaking and using the words as an auditory person, but you might not get it because I'm using my words, not your words. And so that is something that happens a lot in relationship communication that we don't even know.
My marriage.
I learned this 16 years ago. It would have saved me a lot before.
For sure.
But once I knew this, I realized, okay, who is the person who's sitting in front of me? I need to listen deeper and then adapt my communication so that they can understand, especially if I'm trying to teach them something. I've done this workshop in schools for teachers and students so that the teachers can better listen to their students and then support them and say, it seems like you're more auditory. So if it helps you to read this aloud and remember or record it into your phone or your tablet and then play it back, then that will help you retain the information and learn. So these are the nuances that we don't know. They don't teach it mostly in schools, but it helps us at this level of interpersonal communication and learning. It takes practice.
Takes practice, yes.
But especially with the people that are closest to you, it will work wonders and miracles once you adapt that language.
Which also you do your workshops in schools as well.
Yes.
In Costa del Sol. Are you seeing what's happening with the Spanish education system, or generally, let's call it general education system, of that they're not focusing enough into the kids' well-being?
They're being pushed into it now. But if we go back 100 years, 200 years, the whole educational system wasn't built around that.
Yeah.
It was built around a whole different industrial revolution and a need to basically create new workers.
New workers.
So why is it that the school hours are the same as factory hours?
Yeah.
So over the years, as we evolve as humanity, we have come to realize that there are other needs. And whether it's emotional or if you want to call it spiritual as well, we need to be able to be showing not just ourselves but our kids what this evolution is about. Unfortunately, I think because of the pressures of life, a lot of families, a lot of parents have actually forgotten that education starts with them at home.
For sure.
With them personally and then in the family unit. And so a lot of it has been, unfortunately, displaced into schools because the kids technically spend more time at schools than with their own parents lately.
Of course.
So it's like, oh, wait, you do that. You do everything and then let me have my kid and he or she should be perfectly educated when they're sitting at home having dinner with me. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It is good that they are incorporating these different teachings in the schools because the kids spend so much time there and it is such a strong social environment for them. So they need to know how to handle conflict in their own class groups.
Of course.
But also it should come from their parents. Both, I think, have a shared responsibility. Primarily, it should come from the parents, though.
From parents,
because
from home.
They're the ones who chose to have the kids.
Of course. Hopefully. But thank you so much for coming. I've learned so much from you. It's so nice to spread and be advocate for self-awareness, mindfulness, spirituality, you know, and for our children. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So good to have you here.